Good evening, good evening. We in for a late one tonight. Well, there was some other lives going on, so I had to wait. It was sports, a whole bunch of sports ran late, but there was also some other lives, and I didn't know what happened to G's, but I know he doing this thing. Oh my God. Yeah, it was some other lives going on, so I said I'd rather, just not be the person to interrupt and just come on late. So it's fine. People catch the playback, they catch the playback. But we're gonna get into, right into the topics. We're not gonna, probably go for 2 hours tonight, but we definitely gonna, get into what it is that, I plan to talk about. So I definitely wanted to, I had set it for 8:30, not knowing that other lives would be happening tonight with several people in it. So I decided to wait a little bit longer. But nonetheless, here we are, right? So we're gonna do what we do. So I'll wait a few minutes, see if we get a few people in. Appreciate you coming and supporting the channel no matter what, Darian. And anybody else that decide to pop up, I appreciate you. Welcome to Geez1of1. And we're gonna try to just have some quick fun and go over some stuff and address some topics. And then call it a night. But fun-filled day today with a lot of sports. My Eagles lost, my Sixers lost too, but it was in a tight one. So, shout out to Round Mountain Zetbound. Uh, his team beat my team, so that's a big deal because I think his baseball team also won this year. So, San Francisco 49. I don't think they're gonna go too far because they don't have too many pieces, but nonetheless, I think they'll at least they did beat the wild card round. So much respect out to them. The Eagles wasn't prepared this year. We can kind of see because the offense it's not been really hasn't really been clicking. They don't have the chemistry that's necessary, even though they got the players. So it is what it is. So I'm gonna just give it another minute or so. Let some people join in, and we'll get started. Wanted to check my check my sound over there, so I think we good. Adjust my camera a little bit, and we're gonna get started. Can y'all see me? Yeah, I think y'all can see me. I had to fix my other monitor over there. All right, y'all. So if you have read the description, I actually said that tonight I wanted to, deep dive a little bit further into body fat percentage because, at some point the journey becomes more about, overall, fat loss and not just, weight, because that's the thing, right? So hello to everybody that has never been to my channel. This is Geez1of1, where we talk about all things GLP and a few other life hacks along the way when it comes to weight loss. We are obesity warriors on this side of things. So let's jump right into it. All right. So I did talk about body fat loss percentages and the appropriate measures, things to look for and the percentages that you want to probably try to fall into. And what happened is some people had, further questions. So I did address a little bit of it last week, but I definitely wanted to dive in just a little bit more this week. Because I looked at, quite a few things talking about it. And I think I was actually off base a little bit because, I am saying, optimal is like 20%, but it's actually a range. The optimal range is more like for men, I'm talking about men right now, between 16 and 22%, 16 and 22%. So that's really like the optimal range for men. And for women, it's anywhere from 22 to 32%. So women actually have, please don't say anything crazy. Women actually have, you know, the opportunity to actually retain more, and that's because it's more about, you know, hormones, right? They actually have to have more fat because it's more essential for, you know, hormonal chemistry, right? So I'm actually going to just go over a few things. I got the trusty MacBook out with me tonight. So yeah, so I did go over where it was that I'm at. Um, I'm actually at 30% right now, and that's with me losing 91 pounds, right? So it takes quite a bit of loss to actually see that percentage move, you know, for some people. I actually started out at, I believe I was about 40% when I started, and now I am, like I said, at 30%, and that's with a 90-pound loss. So 10% takes a lot of weight at the beginning, depending on where you are. Now, if you're a bit, you know, closer, then, you know, or a bit smaller, it might not be, you know, so drastic, right? But when you start at a high weight like that, you know, and just for context, I'm 6 foot tall. So basically what it is with me being 6 foot tall, my BMI is still, I want to say around today, what is it? It was, I think 31%, right? So with it being 31%, I actually am still in the obese category, you know, because you technically got to get down to the I want to say 25 to be at a healthy weight, 24.9, right? And so for me to see that, I probably would have to be 183 pounds, you know, and I'm not looking forward to going that far. So, you know, the lowest I said that I'm okay to go with going is like 198, you know. So I sit here at 228 right now. So literally, you know, just 30 pounds, you know, that's as far as I'm willing to go. So, I mean, realistically, when you think about that, that might only net me like 5%. But lo and behold, I think I would be close to optimal because remember, the optimal range is between 16 and 22%, and just slightly out of range is between 22 and 25%, right? So I still feel like I can get to where, you know, it's pretty close to optimal, right? I did not put it on subscriber only mode, so that's probably why we see a little bit of chatter in the chat like that. Give me a second. All right, so we moved over to subscriber only, so that knocked things down quite a bit from that crazy noise we were seeing in the chat. So let me read what the appropriate body fat percentage is based on, you know, the AI overview, you know. But like I said, the numbers that I gave you earlier, or if I didn't say, is from a prominent physician in obesity/sports medicine. So that's where that actually came from. Because when I was on the live, I was actually saying numbers that was a lot lower and probably a lot harder to get to. So that's not something that I think, you know, has to be, you know, it doesn't have to be something that you go after because it's not necessarily what we consider optimal. So here in, I mean, what they consider optimal. So for here in, with the AI overview, it says for men, an ideal body fat percentage generally falls in the 10 to 20% range for good health, with athletes aiming lower, 6 to 13%, and averages around 18 to 24%. Okay, so I was getting ready to kind of toss the AI overview out, but lo and behold, it actually cleans itself up as it goes farther down, right? So general population accepted average is 18 to 24%, right? Obesity is 25% and above, right? So that's actually good. You know, if you can, so that's saying if you can get to 24%, you actually are acceptable. And that's what I was saying. You know, if with me being at 30%, if I was to lose another 30 pounds, I probably could get to about that 24% because as you get, much lower weight, I think that it tends to move a little bit quicker, right? So that makes sense. So essential fat for survival is between 2 and 5%. So nobody should ever drop below 6%, technically, right? Very lean and muscular athletes are between 6 and 13%. Fitness and very good health is between 14 and 17%. Fit slash toned, and acceptable average is 18 to 24, which is general population. So in all actuality, the good range that particular physician that I spoke about was talking about was between 16 and 22%. So he kind of encompassed this right here, because what he was saying was that 14% was a bit low. And again, those are men averages. So let me clarify, because I know we have a lot of lady subscribers. Now, for the women, it was a little bit different, right? So I'm going to go dive into that really quick, because it was just slightly different. Because, like I said, there's a reason why. And I'll get into those reasons, right before I move over to the next topic. Because I just wanted to, like I said, dive back into this because I think that is super important. And I'll go to the Healthline definitions because they're probably a little bit more specific. So ideal for men. I actually kind of went over that, and they kind of like align with the same thing. Is for acceptable is 18 to 24%. So that's what us on this with us on this journey, we probably definitely want to be, looking at that, trying to get anywhere between that 18 and 24%, because that's extremely acceptable. And like I said, that one physician said that obesity, the obesity slash sports medicine physician said that it should be between 16 and 22%, right? For fit level, and then between 18 and 24%, or 18 and 25% is what he actually said for acceptable, because the average in population for males is at 29%, right? He said that was 29%. So in all actuality, so right now I'm at 30. Darium says, "Are you doing well in body recomp simultaneously? Are you doing?" I think it's saying weightlifting and body recomp simultaneously. I think that's. Are you saying weightlifting and body recomp simultaneously? So basically, yes. You definitely want to be lifting weights. Me personally, I still was using my my body weight, because like I explained last week, I had a lot of issues with with the ankle and just getting back to working out. So I didn't want to put too much stress on it. So I haven't started lifting heavy yet, but I'm still using body, my own body weight, right now. But I am going to, my plan across the year is to do so, is to get back into, utilizing the actual weights. So I definitely want to get back in that. So where I was at was I was talking about acceptable. Acceptable is anywhere between 18 and 25%. Above 25% is considered obese, which I know I still am, because I'm at 30% and my BMI is at 31, right? So I got a 31 BMI and a 30% body fat. So that's where those additional pounds would come from. So if I'm able to go ahead and lose that extra 30 pounds, I think I could probably do it. Now, based on the charts, hello there, please. Yeah, so actually, when it comes to the actual charts, that when I'm talking about BMI, let me be specific. When I'm talking about BMI charts, I would actually probably have to get to closer to like 184 to be considered in a healthy BMI. And at that rate, you're talking about, what is that? That's like 45 pounds, right? So I don't have a wish to lose that much, because I feel like that's just a bridge too far for me. I'm comfortable with losing about, like I said, another 30 pounds. But in all honesty, if I lose another 10 pounds, I'll be satisfied, because it'll put me out of obesity. So that's the main thing for me personally. So the other thing was for women. So let me go to the women. I'll go to their actual acceptable. It's very, very close. It's really not much different. We did. So women is essentially essential fat is 10% to 13%. for average women is 25 to up to 32%. So that's what I was saying earlier. You got that, that wiggle room, because basically, like I said, there's a lot of reasons why, a lot more reasons why women are actually okay to hold on to a bit more. What's up, traveling techie? How are you tonight? Visceral fat is important too. Absolutely. That's a big one. Visceral fat is the main thing you want to get rid of. Main thing you want to get rid of, because that's the one that's actually hugging those organs tight, right? But yeah, you see women have probably about a 7% gap, with the men, and again, like I said, it's because of the reproduction. So reproduction plays a role in the higher body fat percentages in women, right? So that's definitely, what it is that you want to, and I said that it was like hormonal, and that's a big one. So that's why they're able to actually, like I said, hold on to the additional percentage, is because it's essential for reproduction. All right, so yeah, so that's basically it when it comes to body fat percentage. But I know that's the thing, that when you get so far on your journey, that's what you're chasing. Year one is all about, scale, get it down, get it down, get it down. Year two is probably more about, for some people, recomping your body and then figuring out, how to lose fat, not just to lose weight, right? So because we get on the scale every week and then we are down, different amounts of weight. There's no doubt about it, but the whole thing is, we want to be down fat, not just weight, okay? All right, so that was the first topic, and then I want to get into, I'm going to streamline it a little bit tonight since it got really late. Content creators being prepared to actually, if you're going to be an influencer, you should probably do some sort of, studying or be prepared before you decide to give, any kind of advice. Now, when I say that, I don't mean like advice as a physician, but I mean get on the airways and actually be saying things in a advisatory manner, right? None of us, or not, some of us are, but a lot of us are not physicians, and I'm also not a physician. So when I'm saying something, it's something that I research from either, a physician site, or either things like Healthline or stuff that, or reputable health sites, or studies. That's the other thing, because I read a lot of studies. So I do read a lot, and, I compare a lot. And then once I see similarities, then I feel comfortable enough to get on here and actually start saying it. But what I see sometimes are, individuals who get on the airway and they say, some things that don't, that really is probably not the best advice for people that's starting out. I saw one person, they've probably been on a journey for a little more than 6 months, but which is okay, at that time to create if you want, because I think I started creating after 3 months, but I literally just kept it to my very, very own experience. I wasn't actually telling people, what to do. I was just telling them what was happening to me. Right, I made that very clear. When I got on the airways, I was just literally telling people, well, this is what happened this week. This is what happened that week. This is how I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing, and tell them how things are going and what my physician said. But I never really directed anybody. I didn't feel like I could. Now, once I got later into the journey, closer to that 1 year mark, I felt confident because, I went from when I started out probably losing like 35 pounds to losing over 90. I had lost 3 times as much. So I knew I had some stuff, and I had studied a lot of stuff, and a lot of information became available, right? That wasn't available initially, when I started the journey. So that's why I felt comfortable, starting to say things and let people know about my experience, and also giving some advice, but not advising, right? There's a difference. So, not advising people without saying, hey, you can get to 180 if you want it. Now, yeah, I probably could, but I don't want that, man. That's like going to middle school for me. I probably was 13 last time I was 180 pounds. But yeah, that's the. Hey, Reset with Anissa, how are you? But yeah, that's the thing, like, because it's one guy, and no disrespect to him, but he was on telling people that they probably, hey Teddy, how you doing, man? I see you up here with these and what they call scary hours. These are late night hours. So hey, I appreciate y'all for stopping through, man. I guess y'all seen me live, and like I said, whoever catch the replay, they can just catch the replay. Go watch it later when it actually loads up. But I definitely wanted to get on and still go with it. I set it for 8:30, thinking like with all of the sports that was going on, everything would be over. And then I seen other people doing lives, so that's what had me come on this late, because I was trying to make sure everybody else had the opportunity to go live and do their thing before I got on, right? But Sundays is generally what I do at 7:30. So I went a little bit later this time because I thought I'd be out the way, but I ended up having to wait until a little after 9. But I wasn't late on purpose. So I'm surprised you came on after the. Go ahead, Mark. No, I'm good. I mean, listen. We got a couple Super Bowls, so I'm fine. I mean, things happen. We'll be better next year. You got to lose to win sometime, you know what I mean? So I got no problem. I actually get more upset when my Sixers lose, to be honest with you. And we lost tonight, too. And we lost a tight one because we actually was up and lost in like double overtime or something like that. Because I actually stopped watching the last 2 minutes so I can come down with y'all. But we ended up losing by 1 point. So those always suck. But we play them again tomorrow, so I think we can win tomorrow. So, it is what it is. Eagle, it won't be, a great playoff atmosphere like we used to have in this time of year, but hey, it is what it is. Nah. We lost and we lost. Both teams lost, man. Both teams lost. So, but the Sixers play again tomorrow, though. I think Maxey had like 38 or 40 or something like that, but in a losing effort, because Scotty Barnes, actually outlasted us with a. It was some tricky stuff going on at the end. VJ got pushed out of bounds, and it's all kind of crazy. They had like 4 coaches challenges, a whole bunch of mess went on. So, that's here nor there. That's here nor there. So I got a little company down here with me tonight. The baby down here, because she everybody else is asleep, so she came to hang out over there looking at her tablet. So she turned it all the way down so we don't get feedback. But she's over there trying to hang tough. So. But yeah, so I was talking about influencers that come on. So the guy had said, what he said was, he said that people should probably wait. They should probably wait until they actually get ready, or get to a certain point before they start taking the medication, because it's expensive, right? And I had to, and I think what he meant was like, wait till you got certain habits in order. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, dude, you kind of looking at the medicine completely wrong. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say he's looking at the medicine completely wrong. I just think that he's not educated enough on the medication to know, like, as much as some people that might have been on it longer that watch as much. And even if you're on it for a long time, everybody don't educate themselves the same way. You know what I mean? Some people, they kind of just take it and whatever happens, happens. They just read the base instructions and they good. But other people really do deep dive, and are successful on it. So, we tend to know a little bit more, and we pay attention to the studies and the trials and things like that. And I really feel like he did not, you know what I mean? Or maybe he is, but maybe not enough to actually come on and give that kind of advice, because his thing was, if you're actually on or getting ready to get on a GLP-1, you should make sure you have certain habits in place before starting. It's almost a mentality of you looking at the medicine not for what it is. You know what I mean? Like we know the medicine is a tool to help, offset, the struggle it is to deal with obesity, right? It's to make things easier. So what that almost is like doing is he telling you to white knuckle it until you get to a perfect position. We all know there's no perfect position. When it's almost like, and I asked him this, I said, well, if you have hypertension and your blood pressure sky high, are you gonna wait until you cold, wait until you have a stroke, to actually be treated? It's the same thing. Obesity is a disease. He said, oh, that's a good point. I said, yeah. I said, as soon as you can get your hands on the treatment, you take it. You don't wait for an ideal situation to start treating, because ultimately that's also telling me another thing. That's telling me you don't understand that this is a lifelong medication. This is a lifelong medication. It's not something that you take temporary, And I think the reason that people, don't understand, that I think what it is they get to this point where they still think about the calories in, calories out thing, right? And the move your body thing, and not knowing that the part that's always left out is what the treatment allows your brain or helps your brain to do, right? This is the part. What the treatment does that's not mentioned is that it makes it easier, right? It makes it easier for your brain to cause fat burning and to not store fat. That's a part of it. That's a part of it. You know, it helps the brain to more easily burn fat, right? With the GIP, right? That's part of that fat oxidation, right? It's part of that fat oxidation, right? Because we a lot of times we kind of shortchange the medication with, oh, it makes you feel full, right? It just makes you feel full, so that way your appetite isn't in check and you're not eating that much no more, right? But it does so much more, you know what I mean, with the brain, you know, and that big thing that we're leaving out, that once you stop the treatment that you don't have working for you, is the brain's ability to actually burn more fat, right? And to burn more fat and not store fat, right? It makes it easier. It makes it easier for your body to do such. When you take that medication away, you don't burn as quickly and you store faster, right? And what happens with that? Inflammation, right? You know, the thing that people forget about. So that's why I said that has to consistently be a part of the conversation, and sometimes it's not. People say, oh, well, I'm going to just, come off the medication. Titrating down is fine. You're still getting the medication, in your body, right? You're still on the medication, but to say I'm not going to put it in my body anymore. In fact, even if you actually come off, it's said that it's still in your body for about 30 days, right? So you probably could go, a good month, even though you might be ravenously hungry, like my man Dave over on the pen, said that he was, because I think he just started the Wegovy pill, the highest dose. Pretty sure he said he was going right to the highest dose because he was on the 15 milligram of tirzepatide, which to me, or Manjaro, since he's a diabetic, is that sounds a little scary, so hopefully he does. I mean, because to go from one hot medicine directly to the other hot medicine, again, it's probably the right thing, because I know he said he worked with his physician. I'm just saying it's a scary thing, not knowing like what that's going to be. Now, he personally says since he doesn't feel anything, he's more inclined to actually want to be nauseous or feel something, because with all of this time that has passed, he doesn't feel anything anymore. That's his thing. He's like, I don't feel nothing. It's like I'm not even on anything. And I understand diabetics lose a much smaller percentage, but what I felt like I reminded him of, and he said it was a good point, but my thing was, I said, I can remember, Dave, you saying that not too long ago, you was without your pen for a week or two, I think when he was dealing with something else, and he was ravenously hungry. I mean, ravenous. He was like, this is, me having to step back and, respect that medication. At that time. Now he's saying, well, he just wants to get off and get on Wegovy, so that way he can, he can actually feel something. So, my whole thing is, not so fast, because it's going to be interesting what happens when he probably won't be hungry because he's going to be on Wegovy, but he's just looking for, like he said, something to do something, because nothing's doing it. Now, some might say, well, maybe he should just wait another year, and then do the retatrutide. But easy for us to say, because that's a whole another year. And the thing about the retatrutide, when it comes to diabetics, is, more than likely, it's not going to probably do as well with controlling A1C because of the glucagon factor, right? That actually doesn't do as well as people that are on Manjaro. They might actually see a little lift. Now, I guess the two-sided thing with that is, yeah, you might see a small lift in A1C, but maybe not, because you might actually start seeing a decrease in weight with all three of those hormones being affected, right? So I don't know. I guess we'll see. Or the oral is going to be like the thing for this year. I think this whole year we're going to see a whole lot of stories about oral, and then with it being 149 for the starter dose, you're gonna get a lot of new people trying it, right? People that are scared of needles and things like that, right? You get a whole lot of new people trying it. So that's the thing. Let me get into the comments a little bit, since I kind of went through my little spiel. If we got any comments, because I know it's late. Might not have too many people in here. So we have Reset with it. He said, I almost think that could keep people from ever taking the medication because they feel that they need perfect habits first. Yeah, absolutely. It can. You know what I mean? Because to me, that's poor information. I don't want people thinking like, oh, I'm gonna wait and take a treat. It's a treatment for a reason. It's supposed to go with these things, not after you start them. Because and I said to him, I said, honestly, if you really think about it, isn't the thing that most of us that's taking this treatment that we already tried all of the things, right? We tried all of the things. With us trying all of the things before, well, a lot of us, maybe not everybody, but if you have, then what are you waiting for? You know what I mean? Like now that it's here, why are you gonna wait? You fought all the time. I understand what he's saying. It's about pricing, but it's just, oh, okay, Darren said that's a different perspective. Thank you for bringing that to the conversation. Why do you think that is? What is the message that's out here for newbies to consider? I don't know. Clarify a little bit, Darian, because I'm not sure what you mean by why do I think that is. What is the message for newbies consider? Oh, maybe you're talking about what I'm saying about content creators in general. Because if that's what it is, like I said, my main thing in this is that I feel like when it comes to content creators, you have a responsibility to make sure you at least read and are informed, right? You want to be informed on what it is that you're talking about, and not just let me move this to the side a little bit and adjust. You want to be informed on what you're talking about, and not just out here, saying things to people that actually could possibly, because you don't want to give people bad information and it cause them harm, right? Because I think in anything, the first thing should be is to do no harm to anybody. You know what I mean? So if you don't know, you probably shouldn't, speak on it. You know what I mean? You should probably, and again, we always say refer to healthcare professionals for sure, but I think that's just flat out and out bad advice. You know what I mean? To sit and tell people that, hey, what you should do is wait until you get into a certain frame of mind with certain habits before you take the medication. No, the whole point is they can't get to that frame of mind. Right. So the whole point is this medication can be a safeguard, for what it is that you are, have an issue with. Right. That's just how I see it, personally. I think that's and that's just one thing, because you hear a lot of things out here. You hear people, people try to do everything just as a group, and some things you can't group in, because obviously we all know our biology is different. Some people are diabetic, some people aren't. Some people have other comorbidities, like that other people might not, So with us having different comorbidities and things of that nature, we have to, keep that in mind, that everybody is not a one size fits all thing, So what works for me might not work for you, Now, there are some generalities, right? Everybody know they need to drink water. Everybody know, most people, they know they need protein. They know they should resistance train. They should, do some sort of weightlifting, right? Those are like the basics surrounding the medication. But when you get into the weeds about how much and things like that, that's where things can go off the rail, because then you got everybody that tells you, now you can look these things up, but they'll say, well, if you ain't drinking a gallon of water a day, you out of bounds. Now, honestly, we got to think about that. Not everybody can drink a gallon of water, right? So what you should do is drink as much water as you possibly can, right? Within reason. If you're a male, obviously you're going to drink a little bit more than a female, and if you're a female, and I think if you look at the guides, the average female should aim for about 80 ounces of water, and then the average male should probably aim for about 120, I believe, which is almost a gallon, right? Because I think like 124 is about a gallon, but that's a ton of water. Me personally, a lot of days I can get about 95, but I can't get 125 ounces of water on a 12.5 Zepbound. I'm just that's way beyond, what I can do. But I do drink a decent amount of water. I think I'm not too far off the threshold. So it's to try your best. That's what you should be doing. Nothing's going to be perfect, but you want to definitely try your best, right? So I mean that's just kind of the thing. What did you say? Why? Wait, check the chat. So Darian said, what is the message that's out there for newbies? Okay, that's the one that I did read. That. Yeah, so that's the thing. That's all I was saying about the newbies, is I just think that, and again, if you knew, you knew. You don't know, But that's the thing. I think you should definitely take the time to read the studies and kind of know where it is that you're coming from and what you're going to say before you say it. because you don't want to get on there, like I said, and telling people bad information and having them waiting. Because right now, there are so many outlets now, with the oral medication being $149 and $300 for the highest dose. That was my only thing with the oral medication, is that in all actuality, with the fat loss that it boasts, you're going to probably have to get to that 25 milligram to get it, and that's $300. So realistically, everything is still kind of coming back to that like $300-$400 range, right? $300 at the highest dose for the injectables, and I mean for the pills, and then that $400 range for the injectables, and $450 depending on if you're on the higher doses. But if you're on 2.5 and 5 milligram, you can get that for the lower. I think $299 now. Why do people think they have to come to GLP-1 when they're perfect? Well, I don't think people do. I just think that the guy or they have all of their habits in check. Okay, no, so that was he was saying, because he was talking about money. He was saying you don't want to waste your money, because I think he was a bit short-sighted. He was one of those ones that think that he's going to basically take this, lose some weight, and then be done with it. When in fact, that's not the case, right? In all actuality, it's going to actually take time. You're not going to get on a drug and get off a drug that simple. This is something that's going to be a lifelong thing. So with it being a lifelong thing, that's definitely, and that, again, like I said, people think that they're going to get on, just lose some weight and just stop. They can, but everything points to, you not being able to maintain that weight over a period of time. Now, people might maintain that weight for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year, but with everything that I'm seeing, especially with content creators, most of them start gaining pretty much a month after they come off of it. Once that 30 days is up, they already gain it, and then they gain rapidly, right? They gain quickly. So, everybody that I've seen, come off of it, usually trying to get back on it. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it. Everybody that comes off is like trying to find their way back because they made that mistake coming off. Because again, like I said, the part that they miss most of the time is that part where the drug works in the brain to actually help you burn and not store fat. That's the part that's missed, because people just so quick to just think about lack of appetite. You know what I mean? And that's just one part. When it added that other agonist, the brain's ability to actually, like I said, to burn more fat and not store fat is a big deal. So yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. I'm not gonna, like I said, do a super long one. I just wanted to get on and talk about those couple of topics tonight. Like I said, because it's late, I'm not gonna stay on too long. Just say hello to everybody and keep my promise to show up every Sunday. So next week we'll like I said, go back to being a little bit earlier, probably around 7:30. And we'll jump into a new topic. All right, so that's pretty much it for tonight. Teddy, I don't think people need to wait to start, but I do believe it is important to be aware that a mindset change is important for sustainability. Absolutely. A mindset definitely is definitely. Well, the thing is, like I said, if you're getting on this medication, this treatment, you've probably had a journey, right? So you've been told about mindset since you was trying to go to the gym, right? You've been told that, you got to figure out a way to eat better and move more for years, for a lot of us. So I think the mindset thing, is something that, the problem with mindset is it kind of goes into willpower. You know what I mean? Like I think as a slippery slope, with the mindset and willpower, because that's kind of what that attributes to, is kind of, you can will your way through this. You know what I mean? No, it's very simple. The treatment is a tool that actually works with your body to do things you can't do without the treatment, right? So that is something that we can't dispute, right? I believe people should. I believe that people should, just as I am. I can definitely see that, and there is room for every experience. Yeah, for sure. I wholeheartedly believe that. You know what I mean? I don't think you need to do or be a certain thing, you know what I mean, to get going. And again, think about what we're talking about. We're talking about a treatment, right? A treatment. So a treatment is just that. Like it's to help you. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to struggle no more. Like, you know what I mean? It's gonna be work, but I mean, you don't have to deal with the struggle that you dealt with all this time. So that's why it costs, right? It would be free if it was nothing. It costs because it's making something easier. We all know everything in this world that actually make things easier costs money. If it makes you comfortable or it makes things easier, it costs you money. So that's why, because that was his main point. He was like, well, you don't want to waste your money. But again, I think he's short-sighted because he's just looking at this as a short-term thing. This is, for a lot of people, and most people, if we completely honest, a lifelong treatment. It's a lifelong treatment because once you take that away from the brain, it's gonna be much harder to burn fat, and it's going to store a lot faster. It's going to store fat a lot faster. You know. So, and then when you see that, and a lot of times I don't think we see it because, you know, it's viscerally. You know, we don't see it on the scale, I should say, immediately. So a lot of it is visceral. You know, we all know that the visceral don't compute that way. The visceral computes through, you know, your mood. It computes through biology, you know what I mean, and things that are, you know, going on with you metabolically, you know, and you see it through actions with your body, changes, you know what I mean, and not necessarily the scale. So that's the conversation that a lot of times we don't dive into. People just, because I think what happens is a lot of people don't have actual health at top of mind. Some people, I don't say a lot of people, but some people, and it's more about vanity, you know what I mean, just about the way they're going to look. When in actuality, when they actually dive into the numbers and get into the numbers, they're really sick. You know, you got body fat that's like extremely high, you know what I'm saying, men and women alike, and these are things that can lead to, you know, illness, you know, very rapidly, you know, but a lot of times, because you go to the doctor and, you know, you don't have any red lights, you know, everything is green right now, you know, you're looking past the fact that you still need to lose 40, 50, 60, 80 pounds, you know what I mean? And then even that, you know, that's another thing. I think that the numbers are often daunting for some people. So when it is that they need to lose 100 pounds or more, you know, a lot of times they say, oh, I'm going to just lose 50, 60 pounds. No, you probably got to lose about 120, you know, to be healthy, you know. But I think that thinking about those big numbers like that are just scary, you know. And when I say that, I'm talking about probably a 350-pound guy and a 250-pound, you know, or more, you know, a lady, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you know, extremely obese, you know, those that are like, you know, 250, 300, 350, you know, stuff like that. They got, you know, 100 pounds to lose, you know, you have 100 pounds to lose, but they saying, oh, well, I'm gonna just lose this 40, 50 pounds. And some of it's not their fault. I just think that that's all they've ever been able to do. So if they say anything more, they don't want to be, it's a fear of failure, you know? So if you say that, it's like, I'm probably not going to get to that, so why would I say that out loud? You know what I mean? But in actuality, you know, it's something that actually might be needed. Not for everybody, but for some people, you know. So I feel like it's the same thing. You know, you're trying to white knuckle it and say, well, I'm going to just be on this thing for, you know, I'm going to get everything right, and then I'm going to be on this thing for a little while, then I ain't got to worry about it. Yeah, money matters to all of us, but it's just not something that you can, you know, like I said, sustain most likely without the medication. It's just being proven over and over and over again. So just the same old stuff, you know. But you know, like I said, I ain't gonna keep y'all long. I appreciate Teddy, Darium, and everybody that jumped in. I just wanted to, like I said, jump on and holler at y'all for a minute to keep my word. I'll be back next Sunday, earlier, you know, like I said, to you know, with another topic to actually, you know, go a little bit farther on something fresh, new, and, you know, dive in. But I did want to, like I said, still hop on and just say hello to everybody tonight. So, like I always like to end all my videos, Obesity Warriors, stand up. We in this together. Later. Have a good night. Appreciate y'all.